You're standing in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Miles of sand in every direction. No water, no shelter, no signs of civilization. But deep beneath your feet, hundreds of meters underground, lies a secret so massive, so jaw-dropping, that scientists are still trying to wrap their heads around it. There's an ancient ocean down there, a buried sea, hidden beneath one of the driest places on Earth. And that's just the beginning. Throughout human history, we've built myths, legends, and entire religions around certain places on this planet. We've called them cursed, we've called them sacred, we've called them portals to other worlds. But what if the real answer is even stranger than the legend? What if the truth buried beneath these mysterious places is more mind-blowing than any myth ever invented? Today, we're going underground. We're diving beneath the surface of 7 of the world's most mysterious locations, and we're going to reveal exactly what's hiding down there. Get ready, because some of these will completely change the way you see our planet. Let's start with the one you've been waiting for, the Bermuda Triangle. That stretch of ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, where ships vanish, planes disappear, and compasses reportedly go haywire. For decades, people have blamed aliens, time warps, and even Atlantis. But here's the thing, the ocean floor beneath. The Bermuda Triangle tells a completely different and honestly more terrifying story. Scientists discovered something remarkable in those waters. Massive underwater craters, some stretching nearly half a mile wide. And these craters were created by enormous methane explosions. Deep beneath the seafloor, there are giant pockets of methane hydrate, a frozen form of natural gas. When these pockets destabilize due to geological shifts or temperature changes, they explode upward with catastrophic force. The eruption releases so much gas into the water so quickly that the water loses buoyancy. A ship sitting on that water would simply sink, straight down, with almost no warning. And planes? The gas cloud rising from such an explosion could stall out an aircraft engine mid-flight, in seconds, with no time to radio a mayday call. But the ocean floor beneath the Bermuda Triangle holds yet another secret, an enormous underwater mountain range that creates some of the most powerful and unpredictable currents on Earth. And these currents can scatter wreckage across thousands of miles, making it nearly impossible to locate crash sites. That's not paranormal activity, that's physics. Even more fascinating, researchers have also found evidence of ancient, massive underwater landslides in the region. These submarine landslides can generate tsunamis powerful enough to swamp vessels instantly. And the seafloor sediment in this area shows evidence of repeated, massive disturbances over thousands of years. The Bermuda Triangle isn't a portal to another dimension. It's sitting on one of the geologically most active and unstable patches of ocean floor on the entire planet. The mystery was never supernatural. It was always geological. Back to that buried sea I mentioned at the beginning. The Sahara Desert is the largest hot desert in the world, roughly the size of the continental United States. It's a place where temperatures regularly hit 50 degrees Celsius, where almost nothing survives. It looks in every possible way like a dead world. But beneath the Sahara lies one of the most extraordinary hidden water reserves ever discovered. Scientists call it the Nubian Sandstone Aquifer System, and it is absolutely colossal. This underground reservoir stretches across 4 countries: Egypt, Libya, Sudan, and Chad. It holds an estimated 150,000 cubic kilometers of water. That is enough fresh water to flood the entire Sahara Desert to a depth of 75 meters. Here's the twist that makes this even more mind-blowing. That water is ancient. Most of it fell as rain somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 years ago, during a period geologists call the African Humid Period, sometimes referred to as the Green Sahara. Back then, the Sahara was a lush, wet landscape. Rivers flowed, lakes formed, hippos and crocodiles lived in what is now scorching desert. Ancient humans thrived there, leaving rock art behind that depicts a world nothing like today. Then, the climate shifted. The rain stopped, the lakes dried, the animals disappeared, the people moved to the Nile Valley. And all that water, thousands of years' worth of rainfall, sank into the porous sandstone beneath the sand and just stayed there, locked underground for millennia. Libya has already begun tapping into this ancient reserve through what they call the Great Man-Made River, a massive engineering project that pumps fossil water from beneath the desert to cities on the coast. Some researchers celebrate it. Others warn that this water is non-renewable. Once it's gone, it's gone. We're drinking water that dinosaurs might have reigned over. But the hidden water isn't the only thing beneath the Sahara. There are also vast cave systems carved by those ancient rivers, buried river channels that once stretched hundreds of miles, and geological formations that suggest massive ancient lakes once covered areas that are now the driest places on Earth. The Sahara isn't just a desert, it's a graveyard of an entire wet world, and that world is still down there, hiding. Everyone knows Stonehenge, those iconic standing stones on Salisbury Plain in England, arranged in a circle, built by people who had no written language and supposedly no metal tools. For centuries, Stonehenge was the mystery. How did they move those stones? Why did they build it? What was it for? But in 2010, something changed. Researchers launched a project called the Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes Project, a massive multi-year survey of the land around Stonehenge using ground-penetrating radar and other remote sensing technologies. What they found didn't just add to the mystery, it completely rewrote it. Beneath the ground surrounding Stonehenge, they discovered an entire buried landscape. Not just a few artifacts, an entire landscape. Hundreds of previously unknown monuments. Burial mounds that hadn't been seen since they were covered thousands of years ago. Underground pits, some of them arranged in giant circles larger than the stones themselves. Long-buried processional avenues. The remains of at least 17 previously unknown ritual monuments. And then there was the massive discovery of 2020. Researchers found a ring of massive prehistoric shafts, holes in the ground, each one roughly 10 meters wide and 5 meters deep, forming a circle approximately 2 kilometers in diameter, centered on a nearby monument called Durrington Walls. There are more than 20 of these shafts, and they appear to have been deliberately arranged. Scientists believe this structure is one of the largest prehistoric monuments ever discovered in Britain, and possibly in Europe. Think about what that means. Stonehenge, which we already considered one of the world's great mysteries, is actually just the centerpiece of a vast, buried ceremonial landscape that stretches for miles in every direction. The stones you can see are just the tip of the iceberg. Everything that mattered, everything that gave Stonehenge its context and meaning, is hidden underground, and we're only beginning to find it. Archaeologists also discovered something deeply moving beneath Stonehenge itself. The area was used as a burial site for centuries before the stones were even erected. The cremated remains of at least 64 individuals have been found there, including men, women, and children. Some of these people may have been elites from across Britain, brought there for burial because of the site's sacred significance. Stonehenge was a cemetery long before it was anything else. Beneath those famous stones lies layer upon layer of human grief and reverence. The Amazon rainforest is the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. About 10% of all species on the planet live there. It's one of the most biodiverse places in existence. For centuries, explorers who pushed into the Amazon came back with nothing but horror stories, tales of insects, disease, impenetrable jungle, and death. The conventional wisdom was simple. The Amazon was too hostile to ever support a large human civilization. The soil was too poor. The floods were too unpredictable. Any settlement would have been small, scattered, and primitive. Everything we thought we knew turned out to be wrong. In the early 2000s, researchers discovered something extraordinary. Stretches of incredibly fertile black soil distributed across the Amazon basin. They called it terra preta, Portuguese for dark earth. This wasn't natural soil. It was engineered, created by ancient humans who mixed charcoal, bone, and organic waste into the naturally poor Amazonian soil over hundreds of years, creating a self-sustaining, incredibly rich growing medium. And here's the stunning part. Terra preta can regenerate itself. It's still doing it. Thousands of years after the people who made it disappeared, this man-made soil is still alive and active. But the real bombshell came in 2018, when archaeologists using LiDAR technology, a form of laser scanning that can see through dense jungle canopy, began mapping the Amazon from above. What they found stunned the scientific community. Beneath the jungle floor hidden under centuries of growth, they discovered the remnants of a massive interconnected civilization. Hundreds of geometric earthworks, raised roads connecting distant settlements, agricultural terraces, water management systems, village sites spread across thousands of square kilometers. This wasn't a small, primitive culture. This was a civilization. Some researchers now estimate that before European contact, the Amazon may have been home to as many as 8 to 10 million people, possibly more. Not scattered tribes, but organized societies with complex agriculture, trade networks, and architecture. European diseases wiped most of them out within a century of contact, before most explorers ever penetrated deep into the jungle. The forest then grew back over their cities and roads within a few generations. What the first European explorers described as untouched wilderness was actually a post-apocalyptic landscape, the overgrown ruins of a civilization that had just been destroyed. The jungle wasn't a barrier to civilization, it was a graveyard for one. Easter Island. You know the statues. Those massive stone heads staring out from the hillsides of a tiny, remote island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The Moai. Nearly 900 of them carved by the Rapa Nui people, some standing over 10 meters tall and weighing up to 80 tons. They're one of the great enigmas of human history. But here's what most people don't know. The famous heads of Easter Island aren't just heads. Beneath the ground, buried over centuries by sediment and erosion, most of the statues have full bodies. Some of those bodies are covered in petroglyphs, ancient carved symbols and writing. For decades, the bodies were there, hidden underground, while tourists came from across the world to photograph what they thought were just stone heads. And what's under the island itself is even more dramatic. Easter Island is a volcanic island sitting atop a massive underwater mountain called the Easter Seamount. The entire island is essentially the tip of a huge volcanic structure rising from the Pacific Sea floor. Deep beneath the island, researchers have found extensive lava tube systems. Long, hollow tunnels carved by ancient lava flows. Many of these tubes have never been fully explored. They stretch for kilometers, some connecting directly to the ocean, creating underwater cave systems of extraordinary complexity. But perhaps the most heartbreaking discovery hidden beneath Easter Island is the history of what actually happened to the Rapa Nui people. For a long time, historians blamed the island's ecological collapse, the complete deforestation of what was once a heavily wooded island, on the Rapa Nui themselves, calling it a cautionary tale of self-destruction. They cut down all their trees to move the statues. They destroyed their own civilization. Recent soil analysis, pollen studies, and archaeological work have begun to tell a different story. Yes, deforestation occurred. But new evidence suggests rats, brought accidentally on Polynesian canoes, played a massive role in consuming tree seeds and preventing forest regeneration. And the collapse of Rapa Nui society, according to many modern researchers, was primarily caused not by the islanders themselves, but by European contact, slave raiding, and imported disease in the 18th and 19th centuries. Beneath Easter Island's soil lies not a story of self-destruction, but a story of a people who survived remarkable isolation for centuries, only to be devastated by forces from the outside world. The truth buried in that ground is far more complex and far more human than the legend. Antarctica, the coldest, most remote, most inhospitable continent on Earth. 98% of the land is covered by an ice sheet that averages 2.1 kilometers thick. It's a place where almost nothing lives, where temperatures can plunge to minus 89 degrees Celsius, where entire mountain ranges are buried under ice so deep you could stack the Eiffel Tower 4 times and still not reach the top. What's hidden beneath that ice is so staggering it barely seems real. First, there are mountains down there. Real mountains. Entire mountain ranges buried so deep under the ice that we only discovered them with radar. The Gembritsev mountain range in East Antarctica is roughly the size of the Alps. Jagged peaks, steep valleys, ancient river gorges, and it has been completely hidden under kilometers of ice for at least 35 million years. It's a ghost mountain range, a world that existed long before humans, frozen in time, invisible. Second, there are lakes, hundreds of them. Subglacial lakes sealed under kilometers of ice, some of them enormous. Lake Vostok, the largest, is about the size of Lake Ontario. It's been completely sealed from the surface and from sunlight for somewhere between 15 and 25 million years. And it's liquid. The pressure from the ice above and geothermal heat from below keeps it from freezing. Scientists drilled into it in 2012 and found something astonishing. Life. Microbial life, thriving in complete darkness, under crushing pressure, in water that has been isolated from the outside world for millions of years. Whatever is living in Lake Vostok has been evolving in total isolation for longer than modern humans have existed. Third, beneath the bedrock of Antarctica, there's an entire geological world waiting to be discovered. Ancient rift valleys, volcanic systems, hotspots that keep subglacial lakes liquid. And according to some geological surveys, the land under the ice in parts of West Antarctica sits below sea level, meaning that if the ice melted, that land would be ocean. The western part of the continent isn't really a landmass in the traditional sense. It's a group of islands with ice so thick it gives the illusion of a solid continental mass. Antarctica is not just ice and cold. It's a continent-sized mystery box containing frozen mountains, liquid ancient lakes teeming with alien-like life, and geological landscapes that have never seen sunlight in millions of years. The Dead Sea. It sits at the lowest point on Earth's surface, nearly 430 meters below sea level. It's called dead because almost nothing can live in its waters. The salt concentration is about 10 times that of the ocean. People have visited it for thousands of years, drawn by its supposed healing properties, its eerie stillness, its bizarre buoyancy that makes swimmers float effortlessly without even trying. But beneath the surface of the Dead Sea, scientists have discovered something that shattered everything they thought they understood about this place. In 2010, divers plunged into the Dead Sea. No easy task given the extreme salt concentration that makes full scuba gear necessary. And what they found on the lake floor stunned them. Freshwater springs, craters in the lake bed, each one gushing cold, clear fresh water up through the salty brine. Around these craters, thriving colonies of microorganisms, bacteria, archaea, living in a chemical soup that should be completely hostile to life. Tiny, resilient communities of life, surviving at the intersection of fresh and hypersaline water deep at the bottom of the lowest place on Earth. But the geology beneath the Dead Sea holds an even bigger secret. The Dead Sea sits in a geological rift, a place where the African tectonic plate and the Arabian plate are slowly pulling apart. The lake basin has been sinking for millions of years, descending deeper and deeper into the earth as the plates separate. Deep beneath the lake bed, scientists drilled a core sample nearly half a kilometer long, and what they found in that sediment record was extraordinary. The layers of sediment in that core tell the story of this region's climate going back hundreds of thousands of years. There are layers of coarse white salt, deposited during dry periods when the lake shrank dramatically. Then layers of fine dark mud, deposited during wet periods when rainfall was heavy. The pattern repeats over and over, a geological heartbeat recording thousands of years of climate change. And at certain points in that sediment core, there are almost no sediment layers at all, just smooth, undisturbed rock. Those gaps correspond to historical records of extreme drought in the region. One of those drought periods lines up almost perfectly with the Bronze Age collapse, the mysterious sudden end of multiple civilizations around the eastern Mediterranean around 1200 BCE. Empires fell. Trade networks collapsed. Cities were abandoned across an entire region. And the Dead Sea sediment suggests that part of the reason may have been a catastrophic, prolonged drought. The history of human civilization, its rises and falls, is written in the rocks beneath that strange, salty water. So there you have it. 7 mysterious places, 7 extraordinary secrets hiding underground, underwater, or frozen under ice. The Bermuda Triangle, sitting on an unstable seafloor of methane craters and submarine landslides. The Sahara Desert, hiding a prehistoric ocean of ancient water beneath the sand. Stonehenge, the visible tip of an enormous, buried ceremonial landscape. The Amazon rainforest, concealing the ruins of millions of people in a lost civilization beneath the canopy. Easter Island, whose famous heads have full bodies underground, and whose true tragedy lies buried in the soil. Antarctica, containing ghost mountains, ancient liquid lakes full of microscopic life, and a frozen continent with a hidden geological underworld. And the Dead Sea, whose lakebed holds the climate history of civilizations and the story of droughts that ended entire empires. Here's the thing that strikes me most about all of this. For so long, humans looked at these places and made up stories. We invented gods. We invented curses. We invented aliens and portals and ancient magic. We did that because the truth was hidden and an empty answer felt unbearable. But now, with ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR and deep-sea drilling and sediment cores, we're finally able to look beneath the surface. And every single time, the truth turns out to be more extraordinary than the myth. Not because science strips away the wonder, but because reality is endlessly, almost impossibly more complex and beautiful than anything we could have invented. We live on a planet with an entire hidden world beneath it. Mountains we've never seen, lakes sealed for millions of years, lost civilizations buried under jungle and desert, ancient water that fell as rain 10,000 years ago, still sitting silently underground, waiting. The surface of the Earth is just the beginning. Beneath our feet, the real story of this planet is still being written, and we've barely started reading it. If you found this video fascinating, smash that like button and subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the secrets this world is keeping from us. Drop a comment below. Which of these hidden discoveries blew your mind the most? I'll see you in the next one.